Hi, I'm Claudia Cauterucci, and I am going to speak to you today as the founder and teacher of dynamic meditation. And I'm answering a question actually from one of my dynamic meditation students. We call it DM, all of us, or dynamic. It was such a good question for this week because she said, and she's African American, and she said, am I being a bad DM student or a dynamic meditation student if I feel righteous anger or I feel resistance, right, to what's happening right now, to my place of employment asking me or sending out letters that aren't hitting the mark about what we have felt for so many years, or asking me to again be one of the token Black people on a committee to talk about these issues. She's like, I feel so resistant, I feel angry, I have righteous resentment. She kept using those words and I wrote them down. She's like, and I feel like I'm not being a good meditator. I feel like I'm not good at being a good dynamic meditator. Because I don't want to be the one who's at the committee speaking up and teaching folks how to handle this, how to work through this. So I love this question because, and she kept going on about how guilty and bad she felt about herself because she was having these feelings. And she kept saying, is this good or bad? Is this good or bad? And what I did was I just processed those feelings with her in the moment. But I thought it was such a good question. Am I a bad meditator if I have these feelings? So some of the things that I said to her directly and that I'd like to share here, because I think it's helpful for us as meditators, or at least at how I teach meditation and dynamic meditation. And one of my impetus, or I'm not sure how you say that in plural, but one of my drivers in creating dynamic meditation was that as a meditator myself for over 40 years, 30 years, was that I couldn't reach lofty goals or lofty aspirations like turn the other cheek, forgive your enemy, even love yourself, forgive yourself. I just kept hearing that in spiritual and religious environments, but I had no idea how to get there. I had no idea how to get there when I had been wounded as a child or when I was carrying my own trauma. And so the reason why I created dynamic meditation in a set of steps and in a set of questions that one asks oneself in the now moment was because I really understood that we needed a ladder of steps in order to get to these lofty spiritual aspirations of forgive the enemy or love yourself. These were just huge abstract ideas for me personally, given that I still had all these other feelings to work through and to what we call in dynamic to clean up on. Okay? Dynamic is all about the cleanup. All about the cleanup. And I'm going to give you a few steps. One of them is to become the observer. So the observer, listen to this, the observer but with the eye of witness, not the eye of judgment. What we need are people who will witness us. Witness our pain, our anger, our rage. Now, Again, I always talk from the point of view of the individual healing their trauma. But I do believe, and I've said this in several posts, that what happens, the process of the individual can be easily translated to the process of the collective. So number one is becoming the observer. Now, she was being the observer. Awesome. She was noticing that she was so resentful, so angry, so righteous in her anger, right? But she was judging herself. So we become the observer, but not with the eye of judgment. We've got the eye of judgment. Society gives us the eye of judgment, and it gives us the eye of making us feel good or bad. We're always jumping through good and bad hoops all of our lives. And this is for another video, but that's completely, some of my teachers have talked about, that's the lack matrix. That's living in the lack matrix. That's living in the suffering and lack matrix, which keeps us under the eye of judgment. Are you good? Are you bad? Did you jump through the hoops and that makes you good or bad? So yes, she was succeeding at being the observer, but with the eye of judgment, not witness. And the eye of witness is curious, is interested. Okay, when we look at ourselves, let's be curious, let's be interested. Step one. Step two is being in the now moment. It's the cleanup part. And when you clean up, when you declutter your closet, you just put everything out. Oh, here's some righteous anger. Here's some resistance. Thank you. Thank you. Maybe she was saying, and she was saying, thank you, white people, that you're appearing now. Thank you. Because she was grateful. But don't ask me to do this work right now. That's what she was saying. Just don't ask me to do this work. I'm angry. I'm resistant. I'm tired. Okay? That was okay too. That was her now moment. We look without being judgmental of anyone who's doing this struggle right now. This moment, this now moment collectively is calling us to look inside. COVID was calling us to look inside, not with judgment, but with what's going on. And this is where the cleanup is possible. But if we're in rage, if we're in resistance, if we're in apathy, how about this? I have folks who are introverts. They don't want to go march, but they feel badly. They don't want to post on Facebook. That's not their way of being in the world. So we use the eye of witness. We need everyone. Listen, when we're at war, we need the houses where we can go rest. We need the houses that are filled with the Spirit. And that's what maybe introverts can help us do. If you feel a calling to go inside, do it. Go inside. Do your inside work. If you feel a calling to go outside, do it. Right? This is what my previous post was about. But the now moment, the second part, is to feel your feelings. Okay, number one, become the observer, but through the eye of witness, not judgment. Number two, be in the now moment with your feelings. Feel your feelings. And when I said that to her, she was so relieved. Right? Now we both know, and you know, and I know, that that isn't the highest place, right? For us to be so enraged and full of resentment and bitterness isn't the highest place. But not for others, for ourselves. I don't know if you've ever walked around with a bunch of resentment and bitterness inside of you. It's horrible. It's like heartburn. It's like constant heartburn. Okay? So again, that's a lofty idea of, release your resentment and your anger for yourself. That was lofty for me too. That was like, I couldn't get it. I just wanted, sometimes when I was working through in my 20s, just wanted to be angry at the people. Even now, sometimes I just want to hold on to my anger. But we say yes to that. We say yes to it in order to sift through it. Right? And that was my post on acceptance. Acceptance isn't settling. It's not being complacent, and it's certainly not being submissive. It's saying, this is my starting point. That's what it's really saying. This is my starting point. What is my, and in dynamic, we talk about this a ton. What is my now feeling without the eye of judgment? And she felt so relieved. And even from that moment on, she could feel herself starting to lift. Once we just said, what is my now moment? Feeling. This is your now moment, feeling. Okay? And then the third step is when we start to open up to more creative thinking. When we start to be able to imagine a new way of being because we're feeling into a new way of being. But we can't do that without the cleanup first. And we can't do the cleanup without the now moment feeling first. Do you get that? Okay, so steps. Number 1, become the observer of your internal experience. Through all of this, become the observer through the eye of witness, not of judgment. Number 2, go with your now feelings and say yes to them, including apathy, including introversion, including whatever it is, including gratitude, including surprise, whatever it is, including resistance. Okay? Go with your now feeling, with the eye of witness. Okay? And then begin your process of saying yes. Just accepting that this is your now moment. Okay? And in dynamic meditation, and pretty much in all meditations or in all journeys of self-growth, it doesn't matter what journey you've chosen, in all journeys of self-growth, we know that it's part of the journey to be where we are, but also to keep expanding. Okay? If we're stuck in contraction, we'll contract. We'll get small. We'll get small, which is what contraction is. So we're ever flowing into expansion. Okay? Step 3, which comes later, once you become more adept at watching your now feelings and saying yes to them, and slowly and like gently, lovingly letting them go, which is what we do in dynamic all the time. We say yes, we say yes, we say yes, and we let go. Then, once the closet, as I call it, once the closet is decluttered, once we were able to look and decide, we get to choose. We move into choice. We move into step number 3, expansive choice. Okay, we get to choose, okay, what do I want to feel? Who do I want to be in this now moment? And then every now moment becomes the future moment. Now what do I want to do? Now that I've said yes to all my feelings, now that I've accepted my cluttered closet around this situation, around what's happening, okay, it's okay for her to be in angry resistance. It's okay, right? For that now moment, for that now feeling. Go with your now feelings. And then we get to choose. Now, this is exactly true for your journey as an individual, right? For the work that you want to do as with your family, the work that you want to do with your trauma, and the work we want to do as a collective. The work we want to do as a collective. Then we can move into who we want to be as a collective, how we want to expand and no longer contract. So most of my posts will always link the individual to the collective, because I find that there's a very, very, very similar journey for both. Okay, so that's my answer. And listen, just for another time, but these ideas of am I good or bad? can sometimes really make us contract. And it puts us under the eye of judgment. Am I good or bad? As opposed to, let me be curious as to why I'm responding this way. Let me be curious as to why my reactions are these. But I'll talk about that in another post. I just wanted to respond to this and get it out there. Okay? All right. And ask me anything you want, and I will respond. And people have asked me to post more about my responses to their questions. So here they are. All right.